Mishnah 17. I'm going to put it on the board for you. This Mishnah is Rabbi Yosei. Rabbi Yosei is been one of the students of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. You may recall that he had ascribed different qualities to each of his students, and Rabbi Yosei was the one he called a chassid, a person who is pious, who goes beyond the letter of the law. So we'll see how that plays into his statement. Let me just share it with you. So the Mishnah tells us, Rabbi Yosei Omer, Rabbi Yosei says, Yihi mamon chavercha chaviv alecha kishalach. The money or the property of someone else should be as precious and as dear to you as your own. He's going to say for other things, I don't think we're getting there today. Torah, to prepare yourself to study Torah. She'eno Yerushalach, it's not an inheritance to you. All of your deeds shall be for the sake of heaven. Okay, let's talk about treating others' property as if dear as your own. So we know that we obviously care about, generally, we're going to care about what we have. Most people are careful with their own possessions, although some people are not so careful. However, even if you're not so careful with your own, you still have an obligation to be careful with that which belongs to others. And this extends to the point of not just, say someone has something, but even preventing a loss. That if someone is going to, you see that there's some reason someone's going to cause a loss. I mean, it could be where there's some type of disaster coming, and someone's property is out there. You should put it into shelter, or it could be some type of a deal, a business deal, etc., to protect others from something happening. So, or if you've been given the care of someone else's money, you've been asked, you're an investor or something, or even if you're doing it as a favor. You have an obligation to treat it as if it was your own money. We actually say this about when we talk about, let's say, someone who's responsible for money of a charity, right? So when you say mammon hektish, this is holy money in a sense that it belongs to the shul or a yeshiva or an organization, right? You have to take care of it. You treat it with very, very special, even more so, really, than how you would treat your others. Be even more careful. The Tiferes Yisrael mentioned that he likes to line these up with the different pillars. So this one he lines up with the pillar of Chesed. That here you're looking out for other people. You're going to be worried about their money, but he says really it's not limited to that. It's just as if we have to be careful with other people's money, we also should be careful with other aspects of their lives as well. We should be certainly careful with their health and their strength in terms of making sure that they're healthy and don't do things that are going to harm people's health. Their honor, right? Make sure that people are, as we talked about, the honor of someone else, and also he talks about their seichel, not so much their intelligence, but even their knowledge. We have a responsibility to make sure that other people, in a sense, know as much as they can as well. So as we are all aspects of someone's life, we should be concerned about their well-being and that they should be the best that they can be. There's a couple of stories the Gemara brings down related to how when someone treats someone else's property. So Rabbi Lau actually quotes this, was the famous story in the Gemara of one of the sages' name was Mar Zutra. He was staying at an inn, and while he was there, something was stolen. It was like a kos, a silver goblet, and he sees later that there were a bunch of young students there, and he sees one of them is wiping his hands on someone else's jacket, and he says that's the guy, because this person is not being careful with other people's property. So if we really care about other people's property, not just stealing, it's just using someone else's property, doing something that in any way is treating it in a manner that you don't care about that other person's property. So it's not just a matter of stealing things from other people, it's also using things either without permission or not being careful, right? Sometimes we have someone else's item and it gets a little dirty, what do we care, right? No, you have to be very careful that we don't treat someone else's property in any manner which is certainly less than ours. And the truth is, with our own, we should be careful as well. It's also an aspect. Um, the Rav Aaron Bunim points out an interesting idea here. As I mentioned, that Rabbi Yosei was known as a Chassid, and he says this fits in with his character because a chassid is someone who goes beyond the letter of the law. And we're going to have much later, there's another Mishnah that talks about the how the qualities of someone's property, what I consider, we say, what's mine. So there's different types of people. There's people who say what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. And then there are people who say what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine. That's obviously that's not so good. And then there's people who say what's mine is mine, right? And what is some people who say what's mine is yours and what's yours is yours. And so that's a chassid. You know, that I'm willing to, even if it belongs to me, I'm willing to let you have it or let you use it. She says that is the same idea over here. To treat someone else's like your own is to say that I am it's even though it's something that belongs to me, I'm going to treat it that is someone else's. I'm going to allow other people to use what belongs to me, and that fits in Rabbi Yosei's worldview of the fact that he was a chassid. He was open to being giving to other people, and that going beyond the letter of the law. Tanya also when we are worried about other people's properties, we are more likely to have good relationships with them, right? If we are careless with things that belong to other people, that is a lot of times going to have a major effect on the relationship we have with those people, right? If you go into someone's house and you just abuse their things, or someone lends you something and you're not careful with it, it's not just a matter of a monetary issue. It's going to become as well an issue between your friendship as well many times. Another idea that's brought is that as I said, there are some people who may not be so careful with their own money, but they still have an obligation to be careful with someone else's money. And Rabbi Trotsky quotes one of his great uncle, who says that let the money that you give to tzedakah or to give to other people be as dear as your own. And the idea is that when someone gives tzedakah, then that money, even though you don't personally have it anymore, but the merit of that money you have forever. The money that you have in your life, once you're gone, it's gone. You don't get anything out of it. But the zechut, the merit that you get from the mitzvah of giving tzedakah, that lasts even beyond your life. And therefore, he says that's the money that's really your own. And he tells us there's a story about Abarbanel. Don Yitzchak Abarbanel was an advisor to I think it was King Ferdinand of Spain during the time of the Spanish Inquisition. And there was at that time, they were trying to get him, and he was accused of embezzlement. And he said to the king during the discussion about whether he was guilty, he says, the only money that I can count as my own is the money that I gave away to charity, because that's what I really truly have, because that I have forever. Anything else can always be taken away from me, as they were trying to do at that point in time, was to take everything away from me. He says it's all temporary. I don't really have it. What's permanent is the money that I've given to tzedakah. And again, an attitude that we have is that not only what I have for myself, but what I'm giving to others. And if I take care of what other people have, both by providing for them, but also even just taking care of what you have, then that will be a merit for my being able to keep my own stuff as well. And I think we will hold it here for the day. Have a great day, everyone.